Welcome to a football show Friday edition. Nick Suss of the Tennessean, Pay for Good Journalism. I am Braden Gall. We are brought to you by Sinkers Beverages, and OTAs are over. Minicamp set to begin next week for the Tennessee Titans, which means everyone has to show up to do it. This week, they didn't have to show up to do it, but we had a lot of players on the practice field. We have a lot of things to discuss about Cam Ward, about accuracy, about the plan that the Titans coaching staff has for Cam Ward, the development of the rest of the rookie/second-year draft picks over the last two Mike Borgonzi classes. We talked with a lot of players over the course of the last couple of days. We have a lot to discuss. We're going to get into body activation. Is that right?
I think that's right.
I think it's body activation. We'll talk about injuries. We're going to talk a little bit about Nick's personal journey with gambling and college athletics and my personal journey with the World Cup, which is here. Are the United States the Tennessee Titans? Or is it the other way around? Are the Tennessee Titans the United States of the NFL? I don't know. What's the right
question? We'll talk about it at like the 51-minute mark.
Yeah, these are the important questions of our time. Good morning, gentlemen. Good to see you, Z Dean. Good morning, gents. Please don't freak out about Cam. Yes, Bustin', that is ultimately, maybe that should have been the YouTube title. Don't freak out about Cam Ward having a tough week at practice. That might be the headline of the podcast. If you are, of course, watching on YouTube, we're going to play some video. Of course, we've got Robert Saleh. We've got some clips from practice this week, so you'll see some of that stuff, which is why we prefer you, of course, watch on YouTube. So if you can, thumbs up, notifications turned on. Sometimes we have to do different times of the week, like this one on a Friday morning, because we had practice yesterday. We want to recap all 3 days. And so you never exactly know when. We try to keep it consistent, but turn on those notifications, solve those problems every time. If you're listening on a podcast, we appreciate that as well. Please rate, review, and subscribe. Tell somebody about the show. And, of course, we thank our wonderful, amazing sponsors, Sinkers Beverages. They're going to have a big party at the end of the summer. Can't wait to tell you more about that, so stay tuned. But if I have a World Cup watch party coming up tonight, Nick, and I went into Sinkers, and I said, look, I saw my girl Savannah. I said, Savannah, I need like 10 different countries of beverages represented at a party on Friday night. And I went in there at like 11 o'clock on a Wednesday. Before noon, I had gotten home and I had sake. I had American beers, German beers, Belgian beers. I had French champagne. I had Argentinian wine. I had Portuguese wine. I had everything you could imagine to put on a really kitschy, really cheesy World Cup watch party tonight for the USA. So you want to be creative, Sinkers Beverages can help you.
Yeah, and if you're probably going to be one of the very, very few people who tonight is tuned in to the University of North Carolina versus the University of Mississippi, and you want beers from those two states, I'm sure Sinkers Beverages has you covered there too.
Highland Ale from, I think there's you got Highwire. You got a lot of great stuff from Asheville. I don't know. Give me a Mississippi beer. What, am I missing a Mississippi beer?
Oh, I'm sure there are. I usually just called Memphis beer Mississippi beer, not to be controversial, but
I mean,
it's not far off.
If you want an great American beer from Middle Tennessee, make sure you check out East Nashville Beer Works. Make sure you check out Yazoo Brewing Company, and make sure you check out Tennessee Brew Works. 4 different locations between those 3 of them. You got Madison for Yazoo, you got East Nashville and Wilson County for East Nashville Beer Works, and you got right there downtown a wonderful, perfect place to go start your evening on the weekend or any other day. They got live music at Tennessee Brew Works, so go check them out. But Sinkers Beverages is where you can get all that beer at their award-winning craft beer retail fridge right there. 5-time liquor store of the year, so make sure you support good local business. Okay, Coach Wills, I just need better play from our goalies. Me and my 12-year-old goalkeeper daughter, just scream at the TV. Goaltending has never been a problem for the men's national team in a World Cup or international competition. It is this time, and I'm with you, Coach Wills. It's concerning. We need a wellness check on Terry McCormick, says C. Dean. He's comparing Cam to VY and Jake Locker. Oh, man, there we go. Bustin', is it Josh? I believe. There we go. So lots of stuff to do today on the show. All right, let's start with Robert Saleh first and foremost. He started practice on Thursday with the conversation, answered a couple of different questions about Cam Ward, and we'll explain all of these different questions. I think the first one is just about how he's practiced. I think the second one was from you, which is about designing, I think, how the offense has been designed and how the strategy is around the offense in terms of what they want to challenge Cam Ward with, what they want him to accomplish. And then the last one, I think, was from Easton about elite traits, which clearly is a ripoff of a football show. When you and Jared talked about it on Thursday, and then me and PK talked about it on Monday. Easton, come on, man. No, I'm just kidding.
And then me and Easton talked about it on A to Z as well. It's
totally
a narrative.
Yeah, I'm totally kidding. But good question by him. And he asked Robert Saleh about elite traits. And I think one of the more memorable moments of the press conference, frankly, was him pausing and deflecting the question to some degree. I don't think there was anything nefarious there at all, but like he definitely paused and he definitely deflected. And you'll see all of that, so you guys can judge for yourself. And again, you're going to see how he answers the question. So it's not me translating what you're going to see it for yourself with your own eyes. You don't have to rely on me and Nick and Paul and anyone else to translate it for you. You'll just get to see it, and we can all agree on what we saw happen, which is going to be a theme on the show today. Here's Robert Saleh on Thursday before practice.
It's been great. Like this is the time of year where he's got to try some things. He's got to see what he can and can't do, and then you mix that in with a whole new scheme. I think it's. I'll put myself out there. I think it's very safe to say that we've got a really good quarterback, and good hands. Yeah, Dayball does a great job. They're scripting it in a way that gets the entire offense better. We're making sure that he gets a chance to see every single look. So I don't know if you guys have been out here, but we've had a lot of walkthroughs also, where he basically gets the reps of everybody of the ones that he didn't get when the 2s and 3s are up. So we're trying to get him as many looks as possible. We're trying to make sure that he sees everything, and but every day, regardless of which, we're always going to try to challenge every player in this football. God, man, I don't know if I want to answer that one right now because I'm still learning him too. But I could tell you just visually, just being out here with him, he's got an unbelievable mindset. He is fearless. He really can move on to the next play no matter what happens the play before. His arm talent is ridiculous. So as he continues to develop, and his communication with Dayball too, he's been awesome in that regard. But he's a playmaker. In all our move the ball periods when we go unscripted, I think that's where he shines the most. And I think he shines in those moments because he's just playing football, so it's exciting to see him kind of develop through these OTAs, and it's exciting to see where he excels during the course of practice. But once training camp gets going, I think we'll really see where he's at.
Come on, TV people. What are you doing up there? No. All right, so lots of stuff there. We can kind of work our way through all the comments. First and foremost, I want to get to your question, which is about the setup of all of this. Because the bottom line is this. Cam Ward had a tough week of practice this week. That's all. It's June. It's a new system. It's OTAs. There's new players everywhere. They don't have pads on. The offensive and defensive line aren't really doing anything more than just sort of pushing on each other. It is what it is, guys, but it wasn't a good week of practice. He was very inaccurate for most of the season, most of the week, relative to what you expect to see out of a quarterback at practice. Not the end of the world. What is your take on the strategy and the plan from the Titans? Clearly, intentionally throwing a lot at him, wanting him to, I believe the quote was, we want him to see what he can and can't do. So it's sort of the plan here is to push him and test him and challenge him and the rest of the team, frankly. But he was not accurate this week. He overthrew receivers down the field, especially on Thursday, multiple times. He could not hit players in the flats. He was putting it in the dirt, throwing it over their heads. There were a couple of really great throws too, but he had an inaccurate week throwing the football. Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. What do you make of the Titans' strategy here?
I'll start with this. In a perfect world, your quarterback always looks great. Let anything I'm about to say, let's not invalidate the important thing here, which is it would obviously be better if the quarterback always looked great. It would obviously be better if the quarterback looked great this week. We all know this. Let's not get distracted from what I'm about to say. Oh, he's rationalizing. Oh, he's validating. I'm not. I am starting from the point.
No, that's happening on social media.
I am starting from the point that if Cam Ward had a good week, that would have been better than if Cam Ward had a bad week. Now that we've set that baseline.
This is like children's stuff, Nick. Ugh.
Now that we've set that baseline, let me say what I heard from my question that I thought was actually really, really telling. And that was the bit about the walkthroughs. I don't know how much you guys tapped into that point, but Saleh saying, we have Cam run every single play that he runs live. And then also before or after practice, we have him come out and walk through every single rep that another quarterback took that he didn't get to take, so he can feel every single play in the playbook and understand how they're supposed to feel. At the very least, one thing that this indicates, and I'm going to say it very plainly, one thing that this indicates is that there is absolutely zero doubt that Cam Ward is the Tennessee Titans starting quarterback. And I'm sorry that we have to say this on June 12th, 2026. But one thing that
what is happening?
One thing that we cannot escape from is that genuinely, if you are having this player do every single thing, understand single thing, coaching him down to the studs so that he knows what's going on as well as he possibly can heading into minicamp and heading into training camp in July. Let's not conflate, oh, he had a bad week. What does this mean? Cam's going to be the Titans quarterback. And if this is a straw man, if no one's debating the opposite, I'm sorry. But after this week of narrative building, we have to start at the easiest baseline possible.
But why, though? Aren't we better than that?
No.
Keep going.
No. So what does it mean that the Titans are doing this? And what does it mean that Cam had a tough week while the Titans were doing this? Based off of what Saleh's saying, based off of what Saleh is saying, verbs matter in sentences, based off of what Saleh is saying, and based off of what we saw this week in what was fundamentally a rough week, it seems like the Titans are putting more value this time of year in understanding and processing and being able to, or I guess recognition would be the word, than they are in production. Which makes sense because for all of Tom Brady's accolades, I've never seen anything on his Hall of Fame plaque about his completion percentage in OTAs. Like, that's definitely not to say Cam is Tom Brady. I've spent this entire week telling people, if you expected Cam to be Peyton Manning, your expectations were off from the jump. He's not the same caliber of prospect as some of these guys who've gone first overall.
We'll get to the elite traits conversation in a second.
And we said that the entire draft process before the Titans picked him.
Right.
That hasn't changed. But if you're going to sit here and say, oh, he was completing 51% of his passes this week in OTAs, yeah, that's bad. That's not good. If you want to say, oh, some of his completions probably were thrown too hard or were thrown behind players, and actually the numbers are better than they should have been, or whatever you want to say, yeah, we can quibble. I'm out there every single play that somebody has something negative to say about Cam. I try to, in my head, play the justification game of, oh, well, why was that okay? And every time somebody says something positive about Cam, I try to play the justification game in my head of, oh, well, why wasn't that as good as it looked? Because every single thing this time of year is about picking things apart, is about figuring out what does work and what doesn't work, is about understanding, in order for this play to be as effective as the Titans want it to be, how is it bulletproof? How is it boilerplate? How can the Titans ensure that every single time this play is run or this scheme is approached, that it's going to work? And right now, if this is a justification, call me a justifier, they're finding the holes in the system. They are figuring out what doesn't work while trying to figure out what works. And if this is the process of whittling it down, good. Does Cam need to be more accurate? Of course he does. But let me tell you a stat that is not that far from history. A stat that's like 6 months old. Caleb Williams is on the cover of Madden this year. Caleb Williams is one of the emerging young stars in the NFL. Caleb Williams' on-target throw rate decreased from his rookie year into his second year because the Bears asked more of him, because the Bears told him to throw downfield more, because the Bears took the safety gloves off, because they said, go play football your way, and we're going to see if it works. And it worked for the Chicago Bears, and they won a playoff game. Sorry, Braden. And good for them.
This whole day is about upsetting me. I'm very frustrated.
The
USA, don't disappoint me.
The accuracy problem, Cam's accuracy rate in his rookie year was almost identical to Caleb Williams' accuracy rate. If we're talking about on-target throw rate as provided by the NFL and Pro Football Reference, they were almost identical. I think Cam was a little bit higher. And then Caleb Williams' accuracy on target rate got worse in his second year, and he became one of the NFL's bright young stars. We can talk all we want about putting the ball where it needs to be. It didn't matter last year because one guy who has a very similar profile to Cam, I would argue that if Cam and Caleb have the exact same elite trait, Caleb's elite trait is more elite than Cam's elite trait. But
I think he has a couple other traits that are better too. But
I would say so. But my point is, if we're sitting here quibbling about accuracy, and if we're standing here, if you want to do the screen share here, I can pull this up. I can show you guys what I'm looking at. These stats are readily available.
I don't want your laptop to crash, Nick. No, I don't like. We don't even need. I don't like. I feel like, and I wasn't going to get into this part of the conversation until the end, but I know that I am internalizing the reaction to the slightest bit of criticism because I am processing this as it applies to our country and all people as a parent of children. And I know this is going to go deeper than, but like, look, I'm with Nick Suss here, so I'm going to take it more, in a deeper intellectual way than normal.
Hold on. Before we get too intellectual, let me put on my hard hat.
Okay. I am.
Go ahead.
We are trying to teach resiliency to our kids, and all I see around me, politics, sports coverage, it doesn't matter what it is. There's no resiliency. There's no self-criticism. There's no space for us to be like, I think we could have done better on that. Like, I don't understand. We put people on the moon. We won World War II. Like, I don't understand why we are a country now that is so unbelievably fragile. And I don't mean like the actual country. I don't mean like the earth out there. And actually, I don't even mean our governmental systems or Cam Ward's mental makeup. Like, I don't even mean any of that. It's just all of us. People have gotten so soft. And I know I appreciate all of you listening because you're like, man, this is why we listen to this show. And I hope that is the case. I hope that we can say, we saw Cam Ward struggle this week. And you all have to just agree with that because we're not lying to you. I would hope that you believe that we're not lying to you. Now, I realize I'm taking too much from social media, but I see it with our elected officials. I was driving down the road in Alabama and a sign said, "Love America or leave." I'm like, GTFOH with that garbage. That's so soft. Like, we have to be able to criticize the things that we like and the things that we love when it is worthy and when it is warranted. And Cam Ward had a bad week. I think to your point, you're so down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out why he struggled with each play. Why did this happen? Why did that happen? And this is the time of year to do that. Now, I'm going to go back to Brock's comment here. It says, dude, he isn't hitting his receivers. It's not going to get any better. And I don't know if that's true, and neither do you. Not you, Nick, but Brock. Like, we don't know that. This is June with a new system, with a new coaching staff, with a cast of characters that is, half of them are new around him. And they said to us, now, if they are justifying his struggles, that's fine. But he said all of that stuff before practice yesterday. And so I don't know if he knew. Did he know Cam Ward was going to be bad yesterday? And prepare us for that? Or is he actually saying, like, hey, we're challenging him with a bunch of really difficult stuff because we want to find out what he can and can't do, what he does and doesn't see. And so we want to make sure he is best equipped to handle all of that stuff when training camp comes around. And my issue is that people can't just go, oh, he had a bad week this week. It doesn't mean anything necessarily. It may mean something, but we don't know. We're not really sure. So I think he had a tough week. We have to acknowledge that it was a tough week, and then we can move on from there. Understand why it was a tough week. Now I want to get to the traits of it all here, which is
can I clean up with the stats since
sure.
asked about it?
Please.
Rookie year, Cam Ward's on target percentage 72.6% with a 4.6% drop rate. Caleb Williams' rookie year 72.4% with a 3.8% drop rate. So Cam's was 0.2% higher, virtually identical, and Cam had a 0.8% higher drop rate that he dealt with. Virtually identical in throwaways, 37 to 36, virtually identical in spikes, 3 to 4. Cam had more passes batted. But so, yeah, if you're looking at year one accuracy standards, virtually identical. And then if you look at Caleb's accuracy in year two, I'm scrolling a little bit. Let me vamp. Where are we? Advanced. It doesn't matter. It went down. Trust me, it went down. I looked this up the other day. It went down. That is not a bad thing. That is just a product of he stopped throwing checkdowns. He started throwing very deep downfield. It's harder to be accurate when you're throwing deeper downfield, but when you're throwing deeper downfield, the passes you do complete end up going for longer and your numbers are better. And that's the whole accuracy conversation is very, very fraught because we're not often judging it against the degree of difficulty.
And Coach B, what is it? What is this? A liberal appeal to believe in Cam Ward? My complaints about the politics in our country are not one-sided, by the way. I think one side is way more sensitive and snowflakey than they realize, and I think the other side also is way more sensitive and snowflakey than they realize. But this is not about. I'm just observing that when we report something negative about your favorite team, and most of you I don't think do this, and that's why hopefully you listen to this show. Most of this is about social media and about people's reaction to things and the reaction to headlines and not having the attention span to go deep enough to understand what we're actually talking about. And it's not even an anti-media, pro-media thing. It's just like, what do you want as a fan? Do you want to be told the truth, or do you want to be told that everything's freaking great? And I've never understood the latter. Like I want to be told what Josh Jacobs actually did. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a Packers fan. I want to know what happened, and I want to know the truth. And then I have the freedom to make up my own mind about what I think. And I think B French has a pretty good one here. As a Titans fan, these reports about Cam Ward are concerning. While it's too early to put expectations on Cam this upcoming season, somewhere in my mind, I'm just hoping that he's a game manager this year. That's a reasonable approach to this conversation. And what I would say let's go to the traits thing here, because I think this is what's really, I find this part to be very interesting, because I think when you look at Cam Ward, the prospect, as you were referring to, Nick, he doesn't have any of the elite physical traits that number one overall picks normally have. He's not 6'5". He doesn't run a 4.4. He can't throw the football over them mountains over there. I mean, he's got a pretty good arm. But I thought it was telling that Robert Saleh paused when asked about those traits. He paused. Then he said, I don't really want to answer that question. Then the things he talked about were all of his mental stuff, which I would call perfectly suited to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. I really like Cam Ward's mental makeup and his approach to the game from a psychological standpoint. He's easy. He forgets stuff quickly. He moves on to the next play. He can be a goldfish at times, which is good. He doesn't get too high or too low on mistakes or good throws. I think he has got the temperament to be a very good quarterback in the NFL. And I think that is one of his elite traits. But when we say elite traits, normally we're talking about physical things. And he doesn't really have any. The quick release is like the one I would say is among the quickest releases in all of football. So if that's an elite trait, let's call it that. The arm is very good. It's not Matt Stafford or Josh Allen, but it's very good. So if he doesn't have elite traits physically, he's going to have to come to the table with other things. And I think he has a lot of those other things: leadership, confidence, temperament, all those things I think could be conceived as elite. But I think it is very telling. And I think there is truth to I don't think he meant to do that, but the pause and the deflection from Robert Saleh, I think is illustrative of how Cam Ward doesn't really have elite physical tools that a lot of the best in the NFL have, which also doesn't mean he's not going to be a good player. Like it just is a kind of a fact, right?
Yeah. It's tough because the weight of expectation, and I really wish that Mitchell Trubisky went longer when we asked him about this yesterday, because if there is anybody who understands the power or the harm of the weight of expectation, it's a guy who had to go through Chicago media while doing a lot of the same things that Cam did. I don't know. It's really tricky when you are judged by your draft position instead of being judged by your starting point. And it's inevitable. The Titans picked him first overall. He was the number one pick in the draft.
Yeah.
You have to judge him as the number one pick in the draft because the Titans decided to use the number one pick in the draft on him. That is reality. But it's also reality that we spent 4 months before Cam got drafted talking about how in a standard draft year, he probably would not have been the number one pick in the draft. And when you're evaluating a player like that, what you're talking about is traits. What you're talking about is what Braden is referencing. That before they've stepped on an NFL field, just when you're viewing them in the vacuum of how built in a lab is this quarterback prospect.
Andrew Luck.
Yeah. Andrew Luck, John Elway, Peyton Manning.
Those two, Elway and Luck, are the two I would be like are physically more gifted than any other quarterbacks I've ever seen.
Yeah. It's very few, very far between who these prospects are. What does it mean for Cam that he's not that guy? It means he's in the same gaggle as every other number one quarterback that the last quarterback picked number one overall to win a Super Bowl for the team that drafted him was Peyton Manning.
How many have done it for other teams?
Eli technically, since he wasn't drafted by the Giants, but he was drafted by the Giants, whatever you want to say there.
Yeah.
And then Stafford has.
So a non-Manning.
Yes. Among non-Mannings. It's Stafford for the Rams. And then I want to say, is Elway the last one before that, even though he wasn't technically drafted by the Broncos either?
Wow, I'd have to think about it, but number one overall.
Joe Theismann? It's been a very...
Joe Theismann?
Joe Theismann?
By the way, I'm going to put up some Cam Ward and Trubisky stuff here while we finish up this conversation.
Watch this happen. I think that it is important to remember that we have these conversations about every number one quarterback. Kyler Murray wasn't a perfect prospect. Baker Mayfield wasn't a perfect prospect. Jared Goff wasn't a perfect prospect. And none of these guys have lived up to the number one pick expectations. They're all on their second teams. And in Baker's case, he's on his fifth team. These sorts of things happen when you're picked number one because quarterbacks get picked number one, not because you were the perfect quarterback prospect. I don't know, man. I said this last week. I've said this on 3 different shows this week. I will say it again. I would argue that Cam Ward's post-snap processing speed is an elite trait. His ability to navigate the pocket, his ability to keep his eyes downfield, his ability to will a player open. Good. Very, very good. He's very, very good at that.
I think the pocket one he needed work on last year, but I think eventually he's going to be fine with that.
Yeah, I think that Stillman, is go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, Stillman, good to see you in the comments there. Stillman praised the intangibles with Ward, the only thing they ever do. The problem with Ward is he doesn't have the tangibles. I disagree with the arm. I think he's got an NFL arm, NFL release. To your point, the processing is an intangible. Leadership is an intangible, memory is an intangible, all that stuff. But we knew that Jared, we knew that I think is Nick, your kind of point earlier is he's not 6'4", he doesn't run a 4.4, and he doesn't throw the football 100 miles an hour. We knew all of that when he got drafted. So that's not a new conversation for lack of a better term.
Yeah. And Caribbean Daniel continued to ask me stats that I know off the top of my head. Hooray. If you're extending it to the top 5 quarterbacks who have won Super Bowls for the team that drafted them since 2000, it's the same list. The only person you can add to the list is Carson Wentz, who won a ring while on injured reserve with Philadelphia.
Well, and Mitch Trubisky, when he wins the Super Bowl as the starting quarterback for the Titans this year, he'll be on that list as another team quarterback that changed.
So if Darnold was what, the number 3 pick, and he won it for his 6th team or whatever.
Right.
Like, if we're talking about team that drafted you, return on investment,
That's right.
top 5 quarterbacks have not been particularly adept at winning championships. That's because like 4 quarterbacks have won championships this century.
That's right.
We do have to remember that when Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes have won, what is it, 10
one of those guys was a top 10 pick though, which is
he was pretty high.
But Bustin says on the opposite of B French, it's not concerning to me. It's June OTAs, but if he's still looking bad by week 4 of the regular season, then I will start to worry.
And let me differentiate myself from Braden here.
Okay.
If you want to worry, go for it.
Yeah.
Worry, panic. Yeah. Be the guy who's panicked. The problem here isn't you shouldn't be panicking. The problem is there are a lot of people who want their opinions to be the opinion, and that is not necessarily my perspective on the world. If you personally think that Cam Ward is the greatest quarterback and he's going to win the Titans a Super Bowl, good for you. It shouldn't matter to you if other people agree with you. That's what you believe.
Yeah.
If you personally believe that Cam Ward is inaccurate and going to be a bust and can't actually be an NFL starting caliber quarterback, good for you. It shouldn't matter to you if it shouldn't matter to you if other people cared the same way that you do.
Yeah.
Believe what you want to believe. The problem is not believing what you want to believe. The problem is caring if other people believe what you believe too. I'm sitting here as the guy with the platform. Yeah. I'm sitting here as the guy who talks at you for an hour every week. And I am giving you the license to disagree with me and disregard whatever I say. If you do not personally agree with me,
I think disagreeing and disregarding are 2 different things. I don't think you can disregard what Nick or I or PK or any of these other good reporters have to say. You can disagree, and that's totally fine, and I'm okay with that. I'm married. I'm used to it. But disregarding, I think, is different. That's putting your head in the sand and ignoring facts, in my opinion.
And so if you are somebody who does not think that this week of Cam Ward's matters, cool.
Yeah. Great.
Don't try and convince the people who think it does matter that it doesn't.
I'm in the middle, actually. Like everything, I'm in the middle. Kenneth makes a good point here. The biggest concern I have is Cam downplaying the effects of his throwing shoulder injury to the team to be a tough football player, leader guy, and it's affecting his accuracy. There's no way to know if that's actually what's happening with him. It does not appear that his arm is any weaker or that he's favoring a shoulder. Like, we've watched him throw a lot of footballs over the last 3-4 weeks, and it doesn't appear that he is suffering from anything at all. Now, he could be. I think there is this is a counterfactual that no one can prove. If his motion and his release has led to shoulder throwing issues, and that's going to continue over his career, then that would be a concern, but there's no way to know that.
Yeah.
So that's just like, I could say that about everyone's knees, whatever. Tajay Spears' knees. I don't know. So you can kind of say that at its best. Here's the deal. We got to move on and talk about other things because I think there's a lot of positive things to discuss. Trubisky, I thought was, to your point, I really was interested in what he had to say. He was effusive in his praise of the skill talent around him. I thought he did have a pretty good week. He was the only guy who led a scoring drive in the 2-minute on Thursday, but he also had the only interception, I believe, of the day on Thursday. He's been solid. He was the best quarterback. I think it was Monday maybe that he was the best, most efficient quarterback. That just means like on that day. That doesn't mean he's competing for starting reps. In fact, he even said in the press conference yesterday, like, at this stage of my career, I'm older. I like mentoring guys. Like, he's telling us, like, this is not a conversation about Mitch Trubisky starting quarterback. Okay, like, that's laughable. I do think his perspective on Dayball's offense, on the skill players in this building, and because I agree with him that this is one of the better collections of skill players that I have seen since covering the team in 2016. I think they are deeper at wide receiver. They may not have an elite star like A.J. Brown or Derrick Henry, but they have 3 running backs that I think are decent. I think they have 4 or 5 receivers that can start. They have multiple tight ends. It's not an elite group in the NFL, but it's one of the better Titans groups. I really think Wan'Dale Robinson and Carnell Tate are very good players. I think Calvin Ridley, if he's healthy, is a pretty good receiver. I like the running back room. And frankly, Will Levis being your 3rd string quarterback, they have 3 guys who have started games in the NFL in their quarterback room, and Hendon Hooker. They're deep at all these positions. Again, maybe they're not elite, but they're deeper. And a lot of those guys are rookies or second-year players, which means their trajectory is upward. And I thought Mitchell Trubisky's perspective on that was very interesting.
You just reminded me. I wanted to ask you this because it'll be fun to see your face process it. Trivia question that I don't expect you to know the answer to, but will be fun when I tell you the answer. Since 2000, there have been, I think, like 140 running backs drafted in the 5th round or later.
Oh my God.
Who is the NFL's leading rusher since 2000 among running backs drafted in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round?
Elijah Mitchell. I don't know.
Fine guess. It's Aaron Jones.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of the ceiling for Nick Singleton. And when we're sitting here talking about how great of a prospect he is, and is he going to be the number 1 running back in the future and all this stuff, the 2 best dudes are Aaron Jones and Latavius Murray.
Latavius Murray, okay.
Those are really the only 2 like guys who were sustained high caliber starters for a good while. And I don't think either of them were ever like a sincere top 10 running back in the NFL. I am a little bit grateful that Saleh deliberately pumped the brakes yesterday and said, guys, look, Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears are our bell cows.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Nick Singleton won't be that guy in the future. I'm not saying there's no chance that he can be that guy.
Julius Chestnut's gotten a lot more run.
Yeah. But let's understand when we're talking about this Titans running game, and I'm referencing this because Braden said there were 3 like reliable guys in the back.
I don't know who number 3 is.
and whether that is true or not, let's, at least on this show, agree to put a moratorium on the conversation about whether Nick Singleton will jump Tajay Spears on the depth chart until
it's not. No, yeah, I agree with you.
Until we see him break a tackle in an NFL game.
It's not. Yeah, if there are 400 touches to running backs, 350 of them are going to Pollard and Spears.
Yeah,
that would be my guess. What I would say is that Mullings, Chestnut, and Singleton together, like a Power Ranger, form a 3rd string running back. Like that's how I would put. So I think they have my point. I think they have a deeper room than they've had in the past at that position. Same with receiver. The tight end doesn't have like a star, but I do think Helm and Bellinger really complement each other very nicely, and I think they're going to work very well in this offense. And Helm is a perfect way to jump off into the next conversation, which is I think Titans fans should be excited, not because of like number of catches or yards or touchdowns in practice, but where they're on the depth chart, how they're being used, and more importantly, the Titans putting them all out there to speak to us first thing. They clearly view this second-year class with Cam Ward as foundationally building the future of the franchise, which it should be. But the fact that it is happening in all of the ways that it can happen at this time of year is a very positive development in my mind. And I wrote about that in the story on PK. And it is Kevin Winston being out there all the time and being very active. It is Dike and Alec Iomanner stabilizing depth on the receiving core, and Dike had a great week of practice this week. I thought Iomanner was solid. He's not a down the field guy. I think if you look at Jackson Slater, we don't know what his role is going to be, but he seems to be. They want to give him every chance to compete. Marcus Harris never comes off the field. 1s, 2s, or 3s, goal line, red zone, 2-minute. Doesn't matter. He's out there all the time and is by and large penciled in as your starting nickelback. Gunnar Helm clearly is excited about his role in the Brian Daboll offense that has a history of using tight ends in very creative pass-catching ways. Like, I think there's a lot of reasons. Femi is the one that you have to circle and say, what is Oladejo going to be on this team? But by and large, every one of their roles has increased over the course of this summer program since last year. And I think expectations from the coaching staff onto every one of those players has increased. And I think it's okay for fans to do the same and say, look, I now have more expectations for Kevin Winston, for Harris, for Gunnar Helm. Like, I think it's okay to do that.
Yeah. There is nobody who the Titans drafted in 2025 who I'm looking at right now and saying, that is a Pro Bowl offensive or defensive contributor. I hate that Dike has already been a Pro Bowl All-Pro special teamer, because I now have to be very, very careful with the way I use this.
We know what you mean. We know what you mean.
I don't see anybody in this class who is going to be top 3 to top 5 in the NFL at their primary position. The closest could be Winston, who I truly love watching just fly around.
100%.
Dude does not respect the idea that OTAs means you're not hitting people.
So my takeaway from that is that the coaching staff has no problem with it.
Yeah, no
because
problem.
He's been doing it for 3.5 weeks now, and he basically form tackled Calvin Ridley in his first drill back on team yesterday, and they haven't stopped him one bit. So my takeaway is that the coaching staff is kind of like, keep doing what you're doing, Kevin.
Yeah, I look at that and I see, I've said this on the show before, I see a class that feels like a foundation more than I see a class that feels like a group of superstars. And this team needs both. Like, this team really, really, really needs both. But the foundation is important, and the depth is important. And look, the difference between player number 8 and player number 53 on most NFL teams is not super big. And by that, I mean your 8 versus their 8, your 9 versus their 9, your 10 versus their 10, all the way down. It really is the top 6 to 10 players that do differentiate the calibers of teams.
That would be Cam Ward and Carnell Tate. Those two guys have to be stars. The other people in these two classes can be the foundational prop up pieces.
Yeah. And so I bring this up to be like, look, I think this group of year 2 players is going to be very important for the Titans. If the Titans do end up getting to where they want to be someday in the future, if we're talking about genuine Super Bowl contender type team, with the exception of Cam Ward, I don't think that anybody from that class is going to be the reason why.
Yeah.
And I know there are a lot of people who think very highly of Gunnar Helm. I know there are a lot of people who think very highly of Winston, of Marcus Harris, of whichever guys we want to bring up. Good. Like, they're good players. Well, Marcus Harris, we haven't very much seen yet. I want honestly, to pump breaks, but like,
I would say none of these players that we know right now are stars. What I think all we can go on is what we have seen over the last month based on what they were last season. And every one of them has largely made progress and or seen their role increased. And that all we can do is say Marcus Harris's role is increased from last season to right now today. We don't know what it looks like in camp. We don't know what it looks like in the regular season. But Gunnar Helm's role has increased. The only one's role who's decreased in any way is Khalil Mullings, because they added another piece in Singleton, and he may be actually lower on the depth chart.
I would argue that DK and Iomanner's roles have decreased. It's just the guys around them aren't playing as much.
Sorry, I guess I'm not counting them as 1s and 2s and 3s last year. They're really 4s and 5s, and they're just still 4s and 5s now, and that they are going to be better at that than they were last year because they were asked to do things they probably shouldn't be doing last year. My point is they both look better. Both of those players, Iomanner and DK, look like they are better than they were last year. So does Gunnar Helm. They all do. Femi Oladejo is the only one that you can circle and say, we just have no clue. And somebody asked about how's the defense looking. We'll get to that in a second, because the defense is largely just not been a thing that's out there. For lack of a better description, they're just missing too many pieces for a number of reasons. John Franklin Myers for personal family stuff. Jeffrey Simmons, because you don't need him to. Cordell Flott, because I think he's dealing with an injury. There's there's a variety of reasons. You don't want to. Jermaine Johnson only practiced, I think, 2 times this week and hasn't before then. Alontae Taylor's been out there 1 time. Cedric Gray, I think, has been out there a couple of times. Amani Hooker's only been out there once. Like, you just haven't seen these guys. And so we just don't know as much about the defense as we do about the offense, where yesterday, for the first time all month, we saw Ridley and Carnell Tate and the entire kind of supporting cast around Cam Ward out there together all at one time, which is great. Good job.
You guys want a expert level spin zone here?
Yeah, go for it.
The Titans defense, comprised primarily of backups, is holding a number 1 draft pick to a completion percentage of roughly 51%. Think about how good these guys are. Think about how spectacular. That's a number 1 draft
Dude,
pick.
Micah
guys.
Robinson is a rock star.
I'm withholding all judgment on defense until we see joint practices. Like I want to see the joint practices. And like Bustin, with your comment about Cordell Flott, it's probably a good segue into something that Braden and I have been joking about a little bit for the last 24 hours of Salah's love for things like body activation. The Titans are being very, very careful with a lot of players this time of year. And that should be the preference, right? Like, you should prefer that your coach says, oh, you don't need to get reps on June 11th. Let's have you play in July. Let's have you play in August. Get your body right. And so with the slow play with Flott, with the slow play with Ridley, with giving Tate a day off when they were never really concerned about anything, with the way they've been handling all of these guys, to me, it's kind of hard to not get the feeling that Saleh is responding to what happened in San Francisco the last couple of years of the injury woes and how tough it is when your best players aren't on the field. Let your best players get on the field when they can.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times in the last couple of weeks that Saleh has said, Jeff is the last person we need to see out there right now. They know who he is.
Yeah. They'll all be here. They'll all be here next week.
Yeah.
Next week is mandatory. They'll all be here. Yes, I agree with Kroenke. You can't really see defense, a line of scrimmage, really. Offensive line, defensive line, you can't really tell without pads. I think you can, Kevin Winston, I think you can tell, is in the right place at the right time, is playing much faster and freer and more instinctually than he did last year. And so I think you're seeing him make a lot of plays, and I think you can kind of see that. I think the linebackers, I think you can kind of see a little bit in pass coverage, but you can't, one-on-ones are not fair to the defense, and, it's really not fair to the defense across the board. So I don't necessarily disagree with your point. So anything else on the practice? Who am I missing here? Is there any notes? Jeffrey Simmons, we did see, by the way, in a uniform out running around not in practice, but nearby and dressed out. So looks like he's totally fine. So
he looks like Jeffrey Simmons.
Looks like an enormous human.
Yeah. I'll put a bow on this, and then we'll talk about Sorsby, because I know you're excited about this.
Not really, but
Coach Wills's comment here about Cam Ward's intentional mistakes, and I know there are sarcasms here. Remember last year when all of our conversations were about how good Cody Barton was in coverage against Cam Ward? Like, do you guys remember that was a
he had like three
point?
He had like 3 interceptions. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to invalidate what we've seen. What we've seen is what we've seen. But I'm very interested to look back on this week. 6 months from now. If it's December and Cam Ward has struggled for 5 months, that stinks. You don't want that to happen. That'll be bad. And we'll be able to say, this was something. We saw it. Yeah. But that is not to say that I think that will or won't happen. It just really is. We got to pump the brakes. We got to.
According to Twitter, it's what we're rooting for, Nick. According to Twitter, that's what we're rooting for. Now, I realize I'm the one being fragile and sensitive now by taking too much value on Twitter. But
that's why the first rule of Twitter is don't tweet. And the second rule of Twitter is don't look at the comments if you do tweet.
Oh, I like it. I like every now and then I like it too much. I'm very in on World Cup content right now. And the only place to really get that is social media, sadly. Okay, so Sinkers Beverages, everybody, for your World Cup watch party USA on Friday night. Make sure you tune in. Make sure you swing by Sinkers Beverages and pick up all your bevy needs for all your World Cup watch party needs. You got NBA Finals on Saturday night. Go Knicks, baby, and all kinds of good stuff. So Sinkers Beverages, you can search Uber Eats and have them deliver the booze right to your house. They are super supportive of the community. They're going to have a big community event at the end of the summer. We'll have details for you about that, where we all can get together and hang out and party. It's going to be a lot of fun. So just stay tuned for that. Probably in August, and you got award-winning fridge. You got incredibly knowledgeable staff. Go in and ask for Savannah. She's been in there. She's like certified expert on like wine and everything and tequila, and she always tells me what I need. And so just pop in there. They got a great, huge bourbon selection. Really good stuff available right now. and prices are kind of coming down. I think it's one of the few things where prices seem to be coming down. You can get good bourbon in there right now. It's available. So make sure you check out Sinkers Beverages all weekend long for all your bevy needs. They have THC stuff, non-alc stuff. They got barware, great gifts if you need to find a gift for either a coworker or a family member or a friend or whatever. So just swing by Sinkers Beverages. Okay, so I am not as like I just kind of throw like I've covered college football for so long that Sinkers rules. I've covered college football for so long that I'm just not surprised that this is where we have ended up, which is like, yeah, you can totally gamble on your own team. I did not have to process it at all, but it sounds like you had to internalize and process the Brendan Sorsby judge injunction that says he can totally play for Texas Tech after gambling on his own football teams, illegally sending money across state lines, gambling on his own basketball teams at his own schools, thousands of times, thousands of dollars. And now he's just totally allowed to play because I believe the NCAA has done nothing to fix its problems for 30 years. So.
Look, I'm a guy who read 8 Men Out when I was in like the 6th grade.
Very impactful time in your life.
I can still name all 8 members of the Chicago Black Sox of 1919. Like, wow. A lot of my conception of
Ray Loida.
You got that wrong.
John Cusack.
You got Leota,
whatever.
Joe Jackson, Buck Weaver, Eddie Chicott, Lefty Williams, Swede Risberg, Hap Felsch, Chick Gandil, Fred McMullen. Those are your 8 Men Out.
This is why you read Nick Suss columns and reports on the Tennessean.com, please.
But like, I don't know. The reason that sports have commissioners, the reason that sports have governing bodies is to keep gambling out of the game. It is the one thing that can discredit the entire enterprise. I'm not trying to be overreactionary. I do not think Brendan Sorsby threw games while he was at Indiana. And I do not think that Indiana was at a position where Brendan Sorsby would have been able to throw the games when Brendan Sorsby was at Indiana.
Right.
I understand this. That being said, if we have now set a precedent where there does not have to be a punishment for breaking the one and only cardinal rule that we agree upon, which is we have to have an integrity in sports. We have to allow the audience to know that what we're watching is actually a fair standard competition and not something that has been fixed for the private business interests of evil men.
Otherwise, it's wrestling.
Yeah. If we know this, we should be mad about this. And then I started thinking. And
By the way, I am mad. I'm 10 years past mad.
But so I'm talking through the processing that I was talking to you about yesterday of like, I told Braden my favorite sitcom of all time, and people know that I don't say this lightly, is a show called You're the Worst. If you've never watched You're the Worst, it's on FX and Hulu, FXX, whatever it's called now. Great show. Ran from 2014 to 2019. Stephen Falk's creation. Go watch it. Best show ever. In the pilot episode, there is a moment where one character is speaking to another character about the PTSD he incurred fighting in Iraq. And one of them says, I was defending my country. And the other says, no, you weren't. You were defending the business interests of evil men. And then the first guy says, my country is the business interests of evil men. And I kind of thought about that joke, and it's tongue-in-cheek, and it's joking, and we get it. And we're not sitting here criticizing America on the day of the World Cup.
We're all moving to Venezuela.
But what I'm saying is, I was thinking about the Sorsby situation through that lens of, at a certain point, I'm angry at something I already knew. Like, I don't want to waste time being mad that the NCAA is a little bit feckless a lot of the time. Like, I know that
I think you're giving them too much credit.
I know that the best way to get away with doing anything you want in college athletics is to just not allow the NCAA to investigate you.
Just do it as much as possible. They can't stop everybody.
break all the rules, and when they say, hey, can we look into this? You say, no.
Ed says, I fail to understand why these betting apps who are able to stop your access based on your account or location can't work with the pro and colleges to restrict access. It's all about greed. Here's the problem, Ed. That's not what's happening. And there's lots of reporting about Braden Sorsby. He sends what happens is you have a best friend with an app, and you give that best friend a bunch of money, and you happen to play on the football team, and he does not. And that's it. Basically, it's a burner account. And you're using so the app can't tell who, and I would argue that every single college football team, and if you're young and under the age of 30, you know how to use a VPN. There's no question about that. Every single college football team has a player betting on their teams. I guarantee almost every single one.
And do you think that Shoeless Joe Jackson was the one placing the bets in 1990? Like,
right.
Organized crime doesn't need to.
Actually, I think he probably was, actually.
No, I'm fairly certain that there were some mobsters who were the ones profiting, and the players were getting paid for the mobsters profiting.
Yeah, to your point, though, it's like, it's the logical conclusion to the NCAA never, ever taking a single second to solve their problems at any point during the last 3 to 4 decades. They knew all of this was coming. They could see it all coming. It was all very predictable, long-term thinking. Smart people saw all of this coming. People in the NCAA have admitted they should have done something about NIL and about media rights and super conference. Like, they all have admitted this, that they could have done something about it before O'Bannon filed the lawsuit, and they won. And it until I don't know but compromise is a word that describes a negotiation where both parties are unhappy with the result and don't get what they really want. And until that happens between the SEC and the Big Ten, frankly, this is what was going to happen. We're going to continue down this illogical path of chaos where the NCAA has no power. And so until the SEC and the Big Ten compromise on giving up some of their power to a governing body that is centralized, that can actually have teeth on this stuff, this is where we're going. And the logical conclusion is, yep, I gambled so much that you're going to have to let me play.
I also really, really want to point out that 2 years ago, when Ohio State built a $20 million roster, I said publicly many times, I hope Ohio State wins the championship this year so we see what we've done to college athletics. And they did.
Yeah.
This year, I will say this right now. I hope Texas Tech wins it all.
Well, they're going to go 12-0 because their schedule is a joke. This is not what's happening. Coach B says people have a lot of energy to condemn young guys for gambling, but it's taboo to question league integrity over deals with sports books. I'm not condemning anyone for gambling. I think gambling should be legal. I think prostitution should be legal. I think most narcotics in this country should be legal. I think we should.
More importantly, I want to condemn the heck out of sports leagues for being in bed with the casinos. That's bad.
My argument would be consistent. So if you don't think leagues should have a contract with a gambling company, then you probably are okay. I'm okay with you saying I don't think athletes should be gambling. I think Pete Rose gambling on baseball on his own team to win, technically, I don't actually have a moral problem with, because he never bet against his team to win and then had the ability to affect the outcome of the game. As long as the outcomes of the games, as long as the integrity of the outcomes are still protected, I personally don't care. I don't personally care. But you cannot look at a situation where we have evidence of thousands of gambling incidents with a starting quarterback on a high-level football team, and the people are just like, yeah, we can't do anything about that. Like, that is a NCAA. I'm condemning the NCAA for not doing anything about this over the last 30 years. And I don't know what to, until the SEC compromises with the Big Ten and the Big Ten compromises, we're never going to get anywhere on this. And for that, I am frustrated as a college football fan, more so than I am about the gambling.
And I don't need this to be a second straight week where I go onto a long rant about media consolidation on a football show. So I'm sorry if you guys are going to hear me do this for a second straight week. But the arc of the 21st century and the arc of the late 20th century is that powerful people and powerful entities and powerful businesses and powerful government structures have realized that they don't much like giving up their power.
No.
I think that if you look back to...
The election was stolen.
If you look back to, and this is going to be a history show real quick, but if you look back...
It needs to be a football show real quick.
If you look back to your history of like trust busting and Teddy Roosevelt breaking up the monopolies and the things that America was doing at the end of the Gilded Age and protecting the common man from consolidation, we are not doing that to the same degree that we used to. And this isn't a pro-regulation or anti-regulation stance. This is it should be a bad thing that around the time that college football had an explosion in media rights, which was, I think 2009 was the year the Pac-10 network came on the air.
The money exploded in the late 90s, but keep going.
But my point is that the actual network consolidation explosion happened around the same time as the SEC becoming the dominant force in college athletics. The SEC was not winning every national championship. The SEC was not dominating the sport until that era. There was a lot of spread wealth. There were championships in different parts of the country. Some sports were more suited to the ACC. Some sports were more suited to the Pac-10.
I would argue the BCS era, Tennessee in 98, LSU in 03, and then after that it was domination.
But that's my point, is that right around the time the SEC hit that point of domination is also around the same time that the financial explosion took place, and they parked. And they said, actually, this is how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be the most powerful entity. And the Big Ten said, well, we're here too, and we're supposed to be the most. There's no supposed to be. There's no supposed to be. If the money came 15 years earlier, and Nebraska and Notre Dame were the ones that were dominating the sport, and Miami was the one that was dominating the sport, the financial consolidation is timing based. It's we were the team that was dominating, or we were the conference that was dominating at the time when income disparity became significantly larger.
I find this interesting because when you say income disparity, you're talking about the big programs and the smaller programs in terms of revenue and spending. Like you could go all the way back to the early 90s. The first cable deal was with ESPN and the Big Ten. Jim Delaney launched that deal in the early 90s, and that was a huge influx of cash into the Big Ten with much, much bigger alumni bases and TV markets. And I would argue the Big Ten just never cared enough. Like they had all the resources that you would ever need to do what they're doing today. They just never did it. Like I would argue they just didn't care enough about it. Again, it just didn't mean as much to them.
And I would argue the 90s were also let's call it a different time for the concept of compromise.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The 90s were a bastion of reaching across the aisle, and the mid to late aughts were not.
And not to go even further ripple effect out on this, but around that same window when Urban Meyer and Nick Saban start dominating college football in the early aughts, it is also tied up directly with the invention of social media and the smartphone, which is 06 for Facebook, 09 for the phone. And I don't say that because it like distracted us and ruined our attention spans and ability to critically think and all this other stuff, which it did. What it did though is it consolidated wealth into a very small number of companies. Yeah. The S&P has been dominated by like 6 companies for the last like 12 years. Big oil is no longer the biggest industry in the world. The biggest industry in the world, we the people, our attention is the biggest industry in the world right now. And how do we give away our attention to these like 7 companies in Silicon Valley? Yeah, that started in 06, 09.
If I've never cited this stat before on the show, it's something I find fascinating. I read this, and I'm sorry I can't remember the title of the book. Next week I will cite the book because it's a very, very fun stat. If you track the trend usage of the phrase "you had to be there,"
you've talked about this.
We've talked about this.
Yeah.
2011 with the smartphone is when people stopped saying that. Like people no longer feel the need to have to be there. It's like Daniel Ek, the founder of Spotify. If you guys have ever heard his comment about what Spotify's competition is, you ever hear this, Braden?
Mm-mm.
He says, our competitors are not Apple, Amazon, and Google. Our only competitor is silence. That's terrifying, right?
Yep.
Anyway, but you want to talk about soccer?
I do, but now I want to talk about weed. Bustin says the closest thing we have to legal cannabis in the Tennessee government keeps taking backwards leap. I'm going to end. We'll end. I want to end this very bizarro regulation conversation we just had with a very positive. I'm going to give you this is not breaking news, but I'm going to tell you, Bustin. Medicinal marijuana God's plant, as we like to call it, for branding purposes, to make it more soften the tone of the conversation. It is going to be a heavy discussion at the Tennessee General Assembly next January, and I think there'll be some positive results after a new collection of senators and House reps are elected in the fall. So there is your crossover. There's your political crossover into a football show. Now let's get to an actual football show, which is I want to know if the Tennessee Titans are a team in the World Cup. Who are they?
I am not a soccer expert in the way that people on Club and Country. Is that the name of the show? Did I get it right?
Yeah, you got it right. Club and Country. Check it out. Check it out. The podcast.
In the way that people on Club and Country are. If you wanted to ask which college baseball program the Titans were, I'd be more qualified. But I asked a dear friend of mine who is a soccer expert to give a deep-rooted explanation for who the Titans of this World Cup would be. And I got a lengthy 300-word response about why the Titans are Turkey.
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 Two very young players who are promising, haven't quite reached their prime yet, but people think will be very impressive offensive weapons that are comparable to Tate and Ward. One very impressive backline player who is a little bit out of sync with the primes of the rest of the golden generation that is building, but was still a very talented player. A country, a club that has never been a laughingstock, but has almost always been an afterthought in international football. Just a fun comparison point. I liked that as an idea. I've always...
This is funny. Zidane, Titans would be a country who moved countries and then took their old country's flag with them. So is that like Bosnia and Herzegovina leaving the Czech Republic? Is that what that is?
I'm withholding geopolitical jokes that I want to make right now.
Oh, I love it. No, I love all the geopolitical jokes.
No, I am withholding.
You want to know why? Because this audience is not a bunch of fragile glass case of emotion, safe space babies. You guys are the best. That's what I got to say.
Okay, if I'm walking up to the line, I will say the closest thing, if you're making it, a country who just moved to a new place and said, we exist here now. There's one of those.
You didn't even get close to the line.
I approached it.
You didn't even get close. All right. This has been too long, but very, very fun. Go USA tonight. And if you need drinks to watch Cam Ward practice tape or the USA, make sure you go to Sinkers Beverages. Guys, you're going to be okay. You're going to be fine. I know you all know this, you guys listening out there, but tell somebody in your life, it's going to be okay. You're going to be fine. We are an incredibly resilient country with a resilient group of people, and all you Titans fans, you're going to make it through this really difficult OTA period in your life where Cam Ward threw the football over the receiver's head a few times.
I'm laughing at Zidine's comment. Good deduction. But let me end this with a story. Let me end this with a story real quick that I've been telling people recently. That I think will A, be me testing new material, and B, be a good way to end this show. When I was in college, I met a young woman who it was always very unclear whether we were friends or trying to be more than friends.
Okay. It's because you didn't make it clear enough, but continue.
It's because I was bad at this.
Okay. Fair. See, look, self-criticism and evaluation.
I was very bad at this.
Very good job, Nick.
And from early on in our friendship, she was aware of my joke about how I will always eat oatmeal raisin cookies when there is a plate of all kinds of cookies, because I think they're good enough. I don't think they're the best cookie, but I think they're good enough to eat. And if nobody else thinks that, I'm not taking cookies you like from you because I like these. They're good. They're good. If there's a plate of chocolate chip and peanut butter and sugar cookies and you guys want those, I'll eat the oatmeal raisin cookies. I think they're good.
Do you talk to other people that are also reaching for a cookie and make sure that they don't want the oatmeal raisin and or want the chocolate chip?
Oh, people are pretty vocal about how they think oatmeal raisin cookies are bad. So
they're not bad.
I don't think they're bad either. They're good. Oatmeal raisin cookies are good.
But why would you not take the cookie you really want?
Because I want everybody to have a cookie they like. Dude, and I like oatmeal raisin cookies.
How Stalin of you. How Marxy of you.
I've always, when it comes to cookies, I am a communist. I am okay with that.
You know who else is really communist? The NFL. Continue.
So we've always had this bit. And one day around the time of finals, I got a text from this woman that said, "Hey, I baked you some oatmeal raisin cookies. You should come over."
Oh.
I'm 20, 21 years old. I know what this means.
You definitely go.
As fast
as possible.
And so we can all understand that I was probably having a full-on anxiety attack about this, because this was not the phrase oatmeal raisin cookie related booty call has never been used in the English language.
Oatmeal raisin cookie and chill?
Not a thing that the English language has ever experienced. I was treading new ground, breaking new ground.
Oh my God. What a great text to get. I haven't got one of those texts in a long time.
And so the whole time I am driving to her apartment dorm, whatever it was, I am singing to myself a song I invented where the lyrics go,
"Oh my God.
You're going to be fine, you're going to be fine, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine, you're going to be fine, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine, you're going to be fine, you're going to be fine. Everything will be all right in the end. You're going to be fine, you're going to be fine, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine, 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 you're going to be fine. Everything will be all right in the end." And you sing that on loop and you sing that on repeat for 20 minutes in a silent car because you're panicking about an oatmeal raisin cookie related booty call. Now,
bro, 15 years later, you're just married now.
Now, I get to her dorm and
like a banger.
I get to her dorm. And she is standing in the lobby with a Ziploc bag of oatmeal raisin cookies and says, "Here you go. I got to get back to studying." And goes back upstairs and sends me on my way. I had misread the situation.
What time was this? What time did you get the text message?
1 p.m.
Oh, you got to know better than that. 1 a.m, you know what's coming. All right, no pun intended.
I had misread the situation, and I had spent 20 minutes singing, "You're going to be fine, you're going to be fine, you're going to be fine."
Turns out you're fine.
I was fine. Think about the oatmeal raisin cookies.
You're
going to be fine.
No one's going to think about the oatmeal raisin cookie. They're just thinking about you trying to execute a booty call in college.
You're going to be fine. Whatever anxiety you are experiencing about something that you think matters, it might not matter.
You did marry this girl, right? This is
No.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
No, this is a woman who I am still friends on Facebook with.
I assume your current wife has heard the story before, right?
My current wife has heard nothing. She has heard so many stories about my dating failures.
Okay.
One of the first reasons we fell in love was me telling a story about my worst blind date experience ever. I love telling people about my dating failures. They are hilarious because I do not have a regular person brain, and it's very fun when I try to engage with regular people. And luckily, my wife also does not have a regular person brain, and she would be pretty quick to acknowledge that. So I hope that this story has been illustrative of how it sounds when we spend an hour panicking about Cam Ward's completion percentage in June. It sounds an awful lot like an oatmeal raisin cookie booty call. And so, guys, share this show. Send this to people. Make them laugh at my misfortune.
Oh my God.
And remember that that's what these series of practices sound like in my head. You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Everything will be all right in the end.
Christian Pulisic, you got any oatmeal raisin cookies? Go get the job done, big guy. You're going to be fine. Oh, man. Okay, that was a fantastic way to end this week. I needed that. Thank you, Nick, for telling that story. I do appreciate you. And I hope everyone learns that doesn't know the show and doesn't know the two of us, that maybe is checking this out for the first time, that you're going to be fine and that you are way more resilient than you think you are. It's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. Otherwise, you can catch me panicking later tonight. Go to Sinkers, read the Tennessean, check out all the other great shows. We'll have lots of great coverage of the World Cup on Club and Country. We got SEC football live for you college football nerds that want to know more about Sorsby. Trey Wallace does a great job covering that. You got the Paul Kaharski podcast. You got Hot Read podcast. You got all kinds of great stuff. We're going to dive into the Brian Daboll system and really what makes it different from the Brian Callahan system on the Hot Read, probably early next week sometime. So just lots of great coverage for you guys of everything in Middle Tennessee. Preds, Gold Standard. Great time to be a Preds fan right now as they're doing big boy stuff down there at 501 Broadway. So lots of really cool stuff. Check out all the other great shows. For Nick, I'm Braden. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.